So kind of a brief overview of why we went into this redesign. So we had a couple driving factors. One, we wanted our site to be more mobile and tablet friendly. So we do have a dedicated mobile site right now that all tablets and smartphones get, but it's really not the best use, and our browsing stats say that about 30% of our traffic is now a tablet, so iPad, Android tablet. I know a lot of city council members are getting tablets now for their use, and so we wanted to make it tablet friendly. We wanted a modern user interface that just looked a little more modern and up to date and was a little more intuitive. We wanted to be able to show all of the content we have for a given municipality in one interface. So if you have a code, you have minutes, you have some ordinances, you've got a land development code, instead of having separate links to those like you do on our current site, we wanted all that in one interface, searchable together. And then more for internal reasons for us, we wanted a better architecture that made it easier for us to develop future enhancements. So those are some of the reasons for us to go into the redesign. So speaking of mobile, right now, if you visit, or when your code goes live on this new site, all tablets will get this desktop version. So we'll look at what's called the user agent string of the browser, and if it says it's a tablet browser, you'll get this version, which has larger icons and fonts that are meant to be more touch friendly. You can still choose to view the mobile version if you want, that's oriented for smartphones. If you're on a smartphone, you'll get the mobile version, which is just kind of the single column view for a smartphone. When we do take your code live on this site, all of the links that you currently have to the old site will redirect. So if you have links to chapters and articles or just to the main code or the main LDC, those links will redirect, but we'll also be sending out the new link in case you do want to update your link, but we'll be redirecting everything. And then last but not least, browser support. So while the site will work in Internet Explorer 8. Internet Explorer 8 is pretty old. It takes up about 10% of our browsing traffic right now, so it's definitely trending down. So the site will work in IE8, but users will get a banner that suggests that they upgrade to a modern browser. So what is a modern browser? Pretty much any version of Firefox, Chrome, or Safari, or Internet Explorer 9 or higher. And so if some of you are in a city staff where you guys are locked into, say, Windows XP and IE8, we can definitely work with you one-on-one. We could leave your code on the old site if we need to for a little while until you can have a different browser that'll work better on the site. So we'll definitely support your users in that respect. So that's the broad overview. All of that being said, I'll kind of get this kicked off here. So when you come to a municipality that's got more than one publication, you'll see this landing page. So we're putting you on notice that there's a code of ordinances, and here's how up to date it is. There's also some committee minutes and some council minutes, and you can choose to browse any and all of those. So we're going to dive straight into the code. All right, and so you'll notice I hit browse code of ordinances. Similar to the current site, you've got a table of contents on the left. On the right-hand side, we're showing you how up to date this publication is. And if you subscribe to our Now service, we're posting any adopted ordinances that haven't yet been codified. So putting the user on notice that even though this is supplement 30, we've got some ordinances that have been sent in since supplement 30 that have been enacted. We just haven't worked into the code proper yet. And clicking any of those links will give you a little pop-up window showing you the PDF. The users can scroll through and read it and then close it. So one of the main differences you'll notice between this version of the site and the old site is this table of contents. So it's actually a drill-in table of contents, not an expandable table of contents. So when I click part 1, I'm zooming into part 1 and seeing everything underneath part 1. If I click back up a level, I'll see, okay, I can go to part 2, where this particular customer has their building and land development ordinances. So that's one difference there. And one of the reasons we did that is to be able to use a larger font size and make this more friendly for touch, like I said, for tablets. So to help that drill-in experience, we've added a fully expanded table of contents over here that will show until you get to a section. So let me explain kind of the reasoning behind that. Even on our old site with a fully expanded table of contents, a lot of our users would have frustrations because they'd have a specific section in mind, and they go, okay, I'm going to go into chapter 18. All right, I wanted section 1850. Even on our old site, we would only show you the articles over here. We wouldn't show you what sections were underneath those articles. So you might click this and go, nope, it's not in there. Let me go back. Is it in Article 2? Nope, let me go back. It must be Article 3. So now with this table of contents that shows over here, at any part in the code, so any chapter you click, I click chapter 2, it's going to show me everything inside chapter 2. So the theory being that you're only ever one click away from a section. So if it's a citizen browsing the site and someone on the city staff has given them a section number and says, hey, go read section 2436, they could search for that section. That's the fastest way to get to it. But if they go to chapter 2, they'll be able to scroll down and say, okay, great, 240, 436, that's where I want to go. So you'll notice that when I click something in the table, when I click something in that content pane over here, this table of content stays in sync. So whatever you see on the left and the right are always going to stay in sync on the site. So I'll scroll through here. Let me go find a cross-reference and I'll be able to demonstrate that more. Sorry, I'm having trouble finding a cross-reference link in this code. There we go. So you'll see that just like the old code or the old site, any cross-reference links show a popover. So you can hover over that and say, okay, it's telling me to see these sections, and it gives you a preview of what's in that section. And then clicking that link will take you to that section. So those are the basics of navigating the code, some of the differences within the table of contents and how we've tried to enhance it to make it easier to get to a section. All right, so that's navigating. I'll move on to search next. So the search button is a little bigger than it was on the old site. It's top left where everybody can see it, and so just front and center. So if I click search, it's automatically going to search whatever type of content I'm browsing. I'm in the code right now, and so it's going to search just the codes. If I was browsing archived ordinances or minutes, it would have checked these two, and I can choose to check them if I want. So I'm going to stay with codes right now and just do a simple search. All right, so we're showing you how many results we have for this particular keyword and showing you the publications and the type of content that search results contained in. So here's one big difference about search. On our old site, one of the complaints about search would be that you'd search for a keyword and you'd get back these results, but it wouldn't tell you what section of the result. Version of searching for a term change, you wanted to change mayor to city manager, and you wanted to know how many sections reference that keyword. On this version of the site, doing a search for that keyword, you would just have to look here and say, great, I've got 40 sections in this code that have the keyword animal. All right, when I click a result, I get the hit highlighting, just like we did on the old site. But now my search results have collapsed over into this left-hand search tab. So the benefit here, and again, one of the complaints we would have on the old site was, well, I've got to go back and forth when I click a result, and that's not what I want. I have to go back to the results list and do a lot of back and forth. So here, this stays persistent, and I can say, no, this isn't. I wasn't searching for dangerous animals. Maybe I was looking for this section. Maybe I was looking for this section. So you can click through the code sections over here, or the search results, to find specifically what you're looking for. We still have advanced search options. If you go back into the search box, you can change your keyword up here, or you can expose some of these advanced search features and see if you want to get a little more specific with your search. So the default search options are shown here. So you've got natural language search. So that's more of a Google search. So we tried to keep it simple and say, hey, if you put in, let's say, 3 different keywords, or 2, you say vicious animals, the search engine is going to try to find any sections that have both keywords. It'll rank those at the top, and then it'll rank sections that have one of the keywords. If you want to get specific and do a logical search or a Boolean search, where you want to use the keyword operators like and or, not, you can do that here by clicking Boolean. If you click read more, it will give you a little idea of what operators are available. So again, we see a lot of our advanced users, some of our advanced users using this. The general populace typically doesn't make use of the Boolean features. That's why they're not the default, but they're there if you want to use them. Over here on the right, stemming is on by default. So stemming finds all forms of a word. So if you search for park, it'll find parks and parked and parking. Again, we typically find that that's useful. We leave it turned on, but you can turn it off if you'd like. Fuzzy search will autocorrect some words. So if you misspell some words in your search terms up here, it will correct those for you. And then synonym search has a list of synonyms that will search for similar keywords. Again, we don't want to mislead anyone and show them keyword results they didn't search for, so we leave it off by default. But if you were having trouble getting results for a given term and you wanted to find synonyms of that term, you could check that box and get back more results. So that's an overview of the advanced search terms. I know one of the questions talked about searching multiple publications or these content types, so I'll go over that. So if, let's say this particular customer had a code of ordinances and a land development code, both publications would be checked by default, but you could check or uncheck each one if you wanted to narrow your search. So by default, we're going to assume that you want to search both publications, but if you only want to search just the LDC, you could definitely narrow your search and do that. So similar to this publications, you've got these content types. So Beaufort County happens to use our OrdBank service, and I'll go over that in a minute. That archives all of the original ordinances in a little searchable repository and links them to the code. So if I search for animals again, you'll now see that the third result down here comes from an ordinance. We're using this color coding here to indicate that this is an ordinance in OrdBank, not a code section. And if you scroll a little further down, you'll see a result from MuniDocs, which is where this particular customer stores some of their minutes. So you can decide to search all of those content types or just one of them, depending on how wide or narrow you want your search to be. So, and you can see that whether it's a minutes result, an ordinance, or a piece of the code, all of them have hit highlighting. We can even on the MuniDocs or the ordinances side, if it's a scanned PDF, we can still OCR that PDF and give hit highlighting within the scanned PDF. So those are some of the different content types that you can search. All right. Also worth mentioning is the Browse tab is still here. So let's say you find a result that you want and you want to go do some more reading within this particular area of the code. Clicking on Browse will show you, remember, everything stays in sync. So section 1435 is the result I'm viewing. It's in Article 3, which is in Chapter 14. So I could go up a level in Chapter 14 and say, you know what, I want to look at a different article, and you can continue to do so. You'll notice that since I'm browsing from a search result, the keyword highlighting is still on. If I want to turn that off, I just go up here to my search, remove that search term, and now the highlighting's back off. All right, so that was navigation, search. Now let's look at what we call document actions, so things you can do once you're viewing a document, whether you've navigated to it or you've retrieved it from a search result. So you'll notice this menu button on the top right. This is where we're trying to consolidate all of the different options that you have with a given document. So the two most popular that we see our customers use are print and download. So if I'm here, I may want to print this for offline use, give a copy to someone within my office. Very simple. When I click print, it's going to default to print the document that I'm in. So I'm in Article 2, so it's going to assume I want to print Article 2. But if I'd like to print the whole chapter, or if I'd like to print an article from another chapter, I can use this table of contents to do so. On our old site, we restricted you to just printing from within the chapter you were in. You couldn't go kind of up or down from there. But we had some customers that wanted to do that, so we expanded it in this version of the site. All right, so when you click the print button, real simple, you get your browser's print preview window showing you how many pages that you're about to print, and you can just click print from there. We did have a request, and we're going to work this into a future build of the site where we'll add the version of the code this is coming from. We're adding the date that you're printing it and the title of the code, but we'll also add supplement 30. So you have an idea that, I printed this from supplement 30, but the code's now in sub 32. So, it's an old printed copy that I have. All right, very similar to print is download. So again, I click the download button, I get the same table of contents, assuming I want Article 2. I can select other pieces of content if I would like. And clicking the download button gives me that document in a Word document. All right, let me drag it over. There we go. So you'll see that it retains the formatting of the online code. It's got the same indentation levels and bolding and italicizing and all that fun stuff. So one thing to note about download, so we highly recommend if you're going to draft some new legislation, you say, you know what, I need to amend this section and let me go start up a Word document, always use the download button. If you copy and paste, whenever you get into things like these list item incrementers, you'll get an extra line break thrown in. That has to do with the CSS issue with the HTML, and that's something we can't work around. So we see a lot of users copying and pasting. We've tried to make it as easy as possible. Click the menu button, hit download, hit download again. So in 3 clicks instead of 2, you'll have the Word version that's got all the proper formatting for you to then go do whatever editing you want to do offline. All right, so that's print, that's download. Compare version is new, so that's a new feature. I'll go into that in just a second. I want to highlight a few other things. We've grouped some of the sharing features under this heading. So you can share by email, you can expose a link, or you can share on Twitter or on Facebook. So email simply fires up the same table of contents. You put in user's email address, and they will get emailed links to these code sections. So they're not going to get emailed the Word document. They're just going to get a link to the code section. They click the link, and they come right into the application, right into the section you're seeing here. So we have had requests to add the ability to email a Word version or a PDF version instead of just the links, and so we will be building that in. Also on the download feature, we have had requests for downloading a PDF version as well as a Word document version, and so we'll be adding that in a future build as well. So that's email. Link just exposes the link to this code section. So I'll talk about linking for a second. This is a stateless application, so it means we don't rely on the browser session or anything like that. What that means is that any part of the search application can be bookmarked. So if you wanted to send someone a link to a specific search result with the with the keyword highlighting turned on, all you'd have to do is copy the URL that's up in the browser, or click Menu and Link, which simply exposes the same URL that's up here. So you could link to any part of the site that you'd like to. So this is usually helpful for city webmasters who need to put specific links to sections or tables or something within the code. So this will give them the static link that they can use to do that. The links rely on some IDs that we auto-generate based on all of the hierarchical titles in the code. So part, chapter, article, section. Those don't change very frequently, so that keeps the link static. So the only time a link will break is if a section title or an article title or a chapter title changes. That typically only happens during a recodification or some major revision of the code. So usually it's pretty safe. So then Twitter and Facebook, same thing. You can share on both Twitter or Facebook. It's real simple. It just opens up a new tab and off you go. Two other features here, show banner and hide banner. You'll notice that the custom banner area is a lot taller, but once you start clicking around inside the code, we minimize that to give you as much vertical real estate as possible to read the code sections. But if you'd like to show the full banner, you can do so, and then you can also hide it again. Same thing with table of contents, you can hide it. This is usually useful for real wide like fold-out tables, so use matrices and things like that. Land use tables that are just really large. If you want to collapse that table of contents, it gives you more horizontal real estate, so you can view those tables, and then you can show it back when you'd like. So those are all the options within our menu. I see there was a question about searching multiple cities. So this MuniPro subscription allows you to do that. It's a separately purchasable subscription that Stephanie can speak more to. But from here, you can sign in, search multiple codes, so multiple codes in a state, multiple states, and then also add a note or start a draft of a new code section. So all of these are grayed out until you're signed in, but that's what that MuniPro offering does. All right, so we've hit on navigation, we've hit on search, we've hit on the actions menu and all the actions you can do on a document. So let's look into a few other things. CodeBank. So this is a feature that allows you to archive all of the previous versions of your code. So clicking CodeBank shows me that this code of ordinance has this many versions that have been archived, and I can go back to any one of these versions at any point in time. So we've got the supplement number and the date beside it. So if you're researching a specific issue and say supplement 29, you select that version, you get a little alert here that indicates you're viewing an old version. Right, so I can continue to drill in, look at what I want. I can print from this version. You can't download a Word document from this version. We only keep the Word version for the most recent copy of the code. So you can print from an old version if you still need it for reference, but we don't want anyone accidentally downloading a Word document and trying to draft new legislation based on an old version of the code. So we just restrict you to print. And then at any point in time, you can switch back to the latest version of the code. And now we're back on sub 30. All right, so that's CodeBank. OrdBank, similarly named, is an archive of the individual ordinances. So whereas CodeBank is an archive of the fully codified version of the code at a point in time, OrdBank is an archive of all the ordinances that go into that code. So if you want to go back in time and say, you know what, I really want to know what ordinances were included in this particular supplement, click that supplement. It'll list the ordinances here, and you can view a PDF of that same ordinance. You can also print that ordinance, that PDF of the ordinance, or you can download it. And remember, these are also fully text searchable. So if I click the search box, since I'm browsing just OrdBank, it's got the ordinances box checked. I could check codes if I wanted to, and do a keyword search here and search through all the PDF ordinances that we've received for this code. Also worth noting about OrdBank, not only is it a searchable repository of all the archived ordinances, but we also link any references to those ordinances inside the code. So you'll see that in this particular history note, we've linked that history note to the ordinance that amended this section on that particular date. So from browsing within the code, you can just get a pop-up window and view the original language in the ordinance that affected the change in that section. So that's OrdBank. The last piece of content up here is MuniDocs. So MuniDocs is a way for you to post an HTML or a PDF version of a document. We can take the incoming document format. If it's a Word document, we convert it to an HTML document. If it's a PDF, we just post the PDF. We typically find customers doing this for various types of minutes, but it could also be used for agendas, budgets, policy manuals, really any document that you would like browsable and searchable alongside the code. And we realize that many of you have very sophisticated systems for dealing with those documents, and we're not trying to replace those. This is merely a simple way to get those documents right next to the code and a little more viewable for maybe the citizens that are out there working with the code and need to search minutes or some other related document. So you can see that the table of contents is very simple. I can browse by year, the document date. I can scroll through, read the document. I can print it, or as we demonstrated previously, I can also do a full text search on that document. So that's MuniDocs. Let's see. One last feature is this CodeBank Compare. So building on top of CodeBank, let me pull up a different code here. All right, so I'm viewing a particular part of the code and I say, great, I want to know how this differs from the last version of this section, or two versions ago, or 3 versions ago. So if I click CodeBank Compare, this is going to show me all of the different updates to this code that are stored inside CodeBank. And so if I pick, say, supplement 113, we've got a library that is comparing HTML documents behind the scenes. So it's taking the current version, diffing it against the supplement 113 version, and that's going to show us a strike through and highlighted version. So you can see that this is giving you a little better idea of how this document has changed over time. Strike through is text that's removed, and then the highlights are text that has been added between stuff 113 and I think this is 116. So our hope is that this is a tool that's even further enhances CodeBank and really lets you do some research and gets more valuable as time goes on, right? As the years pass and we have more and more versions stored inside CodeBank, you got a powerful tool to be able to look at 2 different versions at any point in time. So we can actually we can go back in time and respond to this question from Jamie. We can go back in time and populate older versions. The easiest would be just since the city has been with MuniCode, and it's really only since the feature's been available. So I think it's been available for about 2 years. So we can go back in time. There's a separate charge for that to get previous versions when you've been with MuniCode. We could even populate versions beyond that. They'd likely be only in PDF form. And see, I've said too much because Stephanie answered it better than I did. All right, so that is CodeBank Compare. Let me also, while we're here, draw your attention to this little help button over here on the right. So at any point, at any code we host or any part of the interface, if you've got a question, hit the help button. We're going to be populating this knowledge base with a lot of FAQs with screenshots and training and tutorial videos. Or you can simply put in a support ticket. So we've got technicians that man our help desk. They're always working on the incoming tickets. They can help you with simple questions about, how to do a search, how to find something, if you have an error on the site, if something's not intuitive or it's not making sense. And we really want feedback on the new version of the site. With this version, we've actually taken some of the development, or actually all of the development in-house. We've got a staff of experienced web developers that their job is 100% to work on this site. So we'd love to hear feedback, both good and bad, because it really helps drive our design of the site and making sure that it does exactly what you need it to do or you need it to do for your citizens. All right, I believe that is all I've got. Stephanie, have I forgotten anything?
I would just show them the little home button real quick if they ever get lost.
Yes. If you ever get lost, always go home. So little house button up here at the top. That's always going to take you home. So if you get buried in the code or you're off on a search result and you just want to start over, click that button. If you're on, so for the city of Seattle, they've got just a single code. So if you click that, it's just going to take you to the code landing page. If you happen to be in a code like Beaufort Counties where they have multiple publications, clicking the home button is going to take you kind of one level higher, showing you the 3 different publications they have. And then from there, you can click browse and start back into the code. I guess at this point in time, open it up to, we've tried to answer questions as we've been going, but any other questions, anything someone wants to see, something that didn't make sense, anything we can answer at this point in time?
One more thing real quick, also at the bottom right hand of the screen, there's a view mobile site. So you are able, if you are on a desktop site, to look at the mobile version. And same retrospective with the mobile site, there's always going to be a tab where you can click to the desktop site as well. So you are able to kind of hop back and forth.
Yes, good point, Stephanie. Question. All right, so OrdBank. All right, so OrdBank is historical. So we're going to receive your ordinances. Well, we're going to post them here until they're codified. Then once they're codified, they're moved from this page into OrdBank and then linked from the history notes in the supplement history table. So it's a way to give you a historical facing view of the ordinances that have been included over time. OrdLink, right, so OrdLink shows you what is about to be amended. So it adds to this listing. So this listing says we've got some adopted ordinances we haven't yet codified. OrdLink takes that a step further and says, well, this ordinance is actually going to amend a particular code section. So when we retrieve the ordinance, we'll actually read it for sense and go ahead and link it and say, okay, this ordinance is going to amend, these 2 chapters or this 1 chapter, or these sections within that chapter. So these amended badges can lead you down the path of, okay, this section is being amended by this ordinance. And then you can click that and actually get a feel for, okay, here's the ordinance. And then viewing the amended sections tab will show, okay, it's only amending this 1 section that I happen to be in, or it could be amending 10 or 20 different sections. And so it would show you that as well. Any other questions?
I think we're good, Phil.
All right. All right, well, thanks, everybody. I'll let Stephanie close it off, and hope to hear from you soon.
Yes, over the next, again, we are going to be transitioning everyone over to this next platform, hopefully by the end of the year. So keep an eye out for your emails. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're just trying to notify you when the transition is going to occur. We're going to let you know about 2 weeks in advance, then a week in advance, then a day before. So you'll get a series of 3 emails notifying you of when the switch is going to happen. If any of you, like Phil had mentioned at the beginning, want to go ahead and move over now, we can transition you at any time. Just let us know. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and email us at info@municode.com, and we'll get back to you right away. Thank you very much.